The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber glittered under the light of 3 suns. Inside, hundreds of alien representatives from across the galaxy sat in rising circular tiers, their attention fixed on the central platform where Council leader Marcus stood. His weathered face showed the strain of the past few days as he addressed the gathering. Distinguished members of the Council, he began, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. We face a crisis. The Ravagers have struck again. 3 more colonies lost in the Outer Rim. A wave of fearful murmurs swept through the chamber. The Ravagers were the galaxy's most feared apex predators, massive 6-legged beasts with crystalline armor and the ability to survive in space. For centuries, they had terrorized civilizations across the stars, destroying entire colonies and leaving nothing but wreckage in their wake. No species had ever managed to fight them successfully, let alone tame them. From his seat in the human section, Tom Walker listened intently. As Earth's newest representative to the Council, he had arrived just 2 weeks ago. Unlike the other delegates who wore elaborate robes and ceremonial gear, Tom preferred his simple brown jacket and boots, standard wear for an Earth Ranger. The Ravager pack is heading toward the Centauri sector, Marcus continued. Our best estimates suggest they will reach the colonies there within 20 standard days. We need solutions, and we need them now. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices as various species offered their suggestions. The tall, insectoid beetles proposed building stronger shields. The ethereal cloud people suggested evacuating the entire sector. The machine-minded mechanics wanted to deploy their latest weapons. Tom stood up slowly, drawing curious looks from nearby delegates. Humans were still relatively new to the galactic community, and many species viewed them with a mixture of fascination and dismissal. They were seen as primitive compared to the other advanced civilizations. Speaker Walker has the floor, Marcus announced, nodding to Tom. Thank you, Council Leader. Tom's voice was calm and clear. I have experience with dangerous predators back on Earth. Before coming here, I worked as a wildlife ranger in places we call national parks. I've studied predator behavior all my life, and I believe I might have a solution. Laughter rippled through the chamber. A blue-skinned delegate from the upper tiers called out, "You compare your Earth animals to Ravagers? These are spacefaring monsters that have destroyed entire civilizations." Tom didn't flinch at the mockery. Every predator, no matter how dangerous, follows certain behavioral patterns. The key isn't to fight them, it's to understand them. Give me permission to approach the Ravager pack, and I'll prove it. The chamber fell silent. Marcus leaned forward, his expression both concerned and intrigued. You're proposing to, what? Exactly, Speaker Walker? I'm proposing to tame them, Tom replied simply. The silence exploded into chaos. Delegates jumped to their feet, shouting in dozens of languages. Some called him insane, others demanded he be removed from the Council. A few simply stared in shocked disbelief. Marcus raised his hands for quiet. When the chamber finally settled, he fixed Tom with a penetrating gaze. You understand what you're suggesting? No one has ever survived a close encounter with a Ravager pack. Tom nodded. I understand the risks. But I also understand predators. Give me one chance. If I fail, you've lost nothing but one human. If I succeed, we might solve one of the galaxy's oldest threats. The Council leader studied Tom for a long moment, then turned to address the chamber. We will put it to a vote. Those in favor of allowing Speaker Walker to attempt his solution? Slowly, hesitantly, hands and appendages began to rise. Many species abstained, but enough voted in favor, perhaps out of desperation, perhaps out of curiosity, to approve the mission. Very well, Marcus declared. Speaker Walker, you have 5 standard days to prepare. May whatever gods you believe in protect you. Tom smiled slightly as he sat down. He didn't need gods. He needed rope, some specialized equipment, and most importantly, the knowledge passed down through generations of Earth's animal handlers. The galaxy was about to learn that humans had their own kind of magic, the ability to bond with and understand even the most dangerous creatures in existence. The preparation bay of the Council's space station hummed with activity. Tom stood beside his small ship, carefully checking his equipment while various alien scientists and officials watched with a mixture of curiosity and concern. He had named the vessel Ranger, a reminder of his Earth origins and mission. "These are the latest shield specifications," said Dr. Bell, the station's head scientist, handing Tom a data pad. Unlike most of the alien scientists, she was human and understood his seemingly crazy plan better than most. "But they won't hold against a direct Ravager attack for more than a few minutes." Tom nodded, checking the thick coils of specially designed rope in his cargo hold. The material, originally created for deep space anchor lines, was the strongest in known space. "A few minutes is all I need. The key is getting close enough to observe their social structure." "Social structure?" A tall, crystal-bodied alien named Clear Voice chimed in. "They're mindless killing machines. They destroy everything they encounter." "Nothing that hunts in packs is mindless," Tom replied, securing the last of his supplies. "Pack behavior means social hierarchy, communication, and most importantly, leadership. Find the alpha, and you can influence the whole group." The station's warning system suddenly blared to life. Red lights flashed as a voice echoed through the bay, "Alert! Ravager pack has changed course. Now heading directly toward Outpost 7. Estimated arrival, 12 hours. Dr. Bell's face paled. "Outpost 7? There are 3,000 colonists there." Tom was already climbing into his ship. "Then we don't have time to waste. Clear the bay." As the preparation team scrambled to evacuate, Dr. Bell caught Tom's arm. "The outpost is too far. Even at maximum speed, you won't reach it before the Ravagers." "Watch me," Tom grinned, sealing his cockpit. The ship's engines roared to life, their pitch rising as he engaged the experimental boost system he'd requested. It wasn't strictly approved for use, but he doubted anyone would complain if it helped him save 3,000 lives. The Ranger shot out of the bay like a bullet, its frame shuddering as Tom pushed it well beyond recommended speeds. He'd studied every recorded encounter with the Ravagers, analyzing their attack patterns and behavior. Most species tried to fight them with weapons or run away. None had ever tried to understand them. 6 hours into his chase, the ship's sensors picked up the Ravager pack. Tom's breath caught as he saw them for the first time. Massive creatures, each the size of a small shuttle, their crystalline armor gleaming against the starfield. They moved with an eerie grace, their 6 legs extended like strange solar sails as they propelled themselves through space. "Beautiful," Tom whispered, activating his recording systems. Already he could see patterns in their movement. 7 adults, 3 juveniles, moving in a clear formation. And there, at the point of their arrow-shaped flight pattern, was one larger than the others. The Alpha. Tom's ship computer chimed a warning. The Ravagers had detected him. The pack wheeled around with impossible speed, their formation shifting from travel to attack. Crystal armor plates shifted, revealing the organic forms beneath, their bodies glowing with built-up energy. Most pilots would have fled. Tom accelerated toward them. "Come on," he muttered, his hands steady on the controls. "Show me who you are. Show me how you think." The Alpha fired first, a burst of plasma that would have vaporized a larger ship. But the Ranger was small and quick, and Tom had spent countless hours practicing maneuvers for this moment. He rolled the ship, letting the plasma burst pass close enough to scan its composition. The rest of the pack held back, waiting to see if their leader's attack would succeed. Just as Tom had predicted. Pack mentality, clear hierarchy, coordinated hunting behavior. These weren't mindless killers, they were sophisticated predators. Now he just had to survive long enough to prove it to them. The void of space lit up with energy bursts as the Ravager pack coordinated their attack. Tom's small ship danced between the blasts, each movement carefully calculated. He wasn't trying to escape, he was letting them test him, learn about him, just as he was learning about them. "They're talking to me," Tom replied, his voice filled with wonder. "Or rather, we're finding a way to talk to each other. Tell Outpost 7 they're safe. The pack won't attack them." "How can you be sure?" Tom watched as the Alpha began a new movement pattern, its crystal armor creating beautiful refractions in the starlight. "Because they're not mindless killers. They're teachers, protectors, survivors. And right now, they're trying to figure me out just as much as I'm trying to figure them out." The Alpha released another energy pattern, and Tom responded in kind. With each exchange, the patterns grew more complex, more nuanced. He was learning their language, and they were learning to understand him. "Dr. Bell," Tom said, watching as one of the juveniles attempted to mimic the energy exchange, "I need you to contact the Council. Tell them to send xenobiologists, but no weapons. We're about to learn more about Ravager culture than anyone ever has before." The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as human and Ravager continued their dance of communication, rewriting galactic history with every passing moment. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire: a human had made peaceful contact with the Ravagers. Within hours, the council chamber was packed with representatives demanding answers, explanations, and proof. Tom's video feeds showed them something unprecedented. The Ravager pack was now escorting his ship through space, moving in perfect formation around him. The Alpha led the way, with Tom's small vessel following close behind, while the rest of the pack maintained a protective circle around them both. "Impossible," muttered Clear Voice, watching the feeds with all three of his crystal eyes. "They're protecting him?" Dr. Bell stood before the council, presenting her preliminary findings. "The energy patterns they exchange are incredibly complex. It's not just communication, it's a form of shared experience. The Ravagers don't just talk, they share memories, emotions, and knowledge through these energy bursts." On the main screen, they watched as one of the juvenile Ravagers broke formation to drift closer to Tom's ship. Instead of attacking, it released a gentle pulse of energy, like a curious child asking a question. Tom's ship responded with a similar pulse, and the juvenile's crystalline armor shifted in what almost looked like excitement. "They're teaching me about their society," Tom's voice came through the communication system. "And I'm teaching them about ours. The attacks on our colonies, they weren't random acts of violence. The Ravagers thought we were invading their ancient spawning grounds." The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. Marcus leaned forward in his chair. "Spawning grounds? You mean they have specific territories?" "More than that," Tom replied. "They have a complex culture built around protecting these areas. The crystalline structures we thought were just their armor? They're living records, storing generations of their history. Every pattern, every refraction of light through their bodies tells a story." As if to demonstrate, the Alpha Ravager released a spectacular display of energy, its crystal plates shifting to create intricate patterns of light and color. The other pack members responded in kind, creating a mesmerizing dance of light and energy that filled the starfield around them. "Watch this," Tom said excitedly. His ship released a series of energy pulses that mimicked the pattern, but with subtle variations. The Alpha responded by adjusting its own display, incorporating elements of Tom's pattern into its dance. Dr. Bell's instruments went wild. "The energy signatures, they're harmonizing." "Tom, what exactly are you doing?" "I'm sharing our stories with them," Tom explained. "Just like they shared theirs with me. I'm showing them how humans have worked with Earth's predators, how we've learned to coexist and even cooperate with species that others feared." The largest viewing screen showed the Alpha moving closer to Tom's ship, its massive form dwarfing the small vessel. The council members held their breath, many expecting violence despite everything they'd seen. Instead, the Alpha extended one of its crystalline legs, gently touching the ship's hull. "The Alpha is requesting permission to share something important," Tom said, his voice filled with awe. "Something about their history, their purpose in the galaxy. Council Leader Marcus, with your permission, I'd like to dock with the station so we can all witness this properly." Marcus looked around the chamber, seeing the mixture of fear and fascination on the faces of the gathered representatives. This could change everything: their understanding of the Ravagers, their place in the galaxy, the future of interspecies relations. "Permission granted," he said finally. "But approach slowly, and maintain energy shields at maximum." As Tom's ship and the Ravager pack began their careful approach to the station, Dr. Bell studied her readings with growing excitement. The energy patterns they're exchanging, they're becoming more complex, more integrated. It's like they're developing a whole new language together, combining their way of communication with ours. The galaxy watched and waited as humanity's greatest gamble approached its most crucial moment. The apex predators of space were about to share their deepest secrets with the species that had dared to understand them rather than fear them. The docking procedure was unlike anything the station had ever witnessed. Tom's ship entered first, followed by the Alpha Ravager, while the rest of the pack maintained a protective formation outside. The station's massive observation deck had been cleared of all unnecessary personnel, though hundreds of delegates watched from behind energy shields in the upper galleries. As Tom stepped out of his ship, the Alpha Ravager moved into the pressurized chamber with surprising grace. Up close, its crystalline body was even more magnificent, layers of translucent armor shifting and flowing like liquid glass, internal lights pulsing with complex patterns. "Easy now," Tom said softly, both to the watching crowd and the massive creature before him. He carried only his energy pulse generator, no weapons. "We're all friends here." The Alpha's crystal plates shifted, creating a cascade of light that reflected off every surface in the chamber. Dr. Bell's instruments recorded frantically as the patterns became more intricate, more purposeful. "It's beginning," Tom announced, activating his energy pulse generator. "They're going to show us why they've been protecting those specific regions of space." The Alpha's body began to glow more intensely, and suddenly the entire chamber was filled with three-dimensional light projections, star maps, but unlike any the Council had ever seen. They showed the galaxy as it had been millions of years ago, when the first species were just beginning to explore space. "By all the stars," Marcus whispered from his observation post. "They're ancient. They were here before any of us." The projection shifted, showing vast clouds of dark energy spreading through space, destroying entire solar systems. Then came the Ravagers, their crystalline bodies acting as living shields, containing and redirecting the deadly energy. "They're guardians," Dr. Bell breathed, understanding dawning in her eyes. "Those territories they defend, they're not just spawning grounds. They're seals, containing points where dark energy could leak into our galaxy." The Alpha's projection showed more, generations of Ravagers, teaching their young how to maintain the ancient seals, how to protect the galaxy from forces that could tear it apart. When spacefaring civilizations began to emerge, the Ravagers found their sacred duties complicated by the spread of colonies and outposts. "They weren't attacking us," Tom explained, watching the story unfold. "They were trying to warn us away from places that could destroy us. But without a way to communicate, all we saw was violence." The Alpha moved closer to Tom, its massive head lowering to his level. Tom reached out slowly, placing his hand against one of the crystal plates. The contact created a surge of shared energy that made the air itself shimmer. Through this connection, the Alpha shared one final vision, a future where Ravagers and other species work together, combining their knowledge and abilities to better protect the galaxy. The crystal plates on its body shifted, revealing patterns that matched the energy pulses from Tom's generator. They want to teach us, Tom said, his voice filled with wonder. Not just about the seals and the dark energy, but about their whole civilization. They've been waiting for someone who could understand them, who could help bridge the gap between their world and ours. Dr. Bell stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. The patterns in their crystals, they're not just armor or communication tools. They're libraries, containing millions of years of knowledge. The Alpha released a gentle pulse of energy that spread through the chamber, touching each watching delegate. It wasn't aggression or dominance, it was an invitation. An offer to share their ancient wisdom with species they had watched grow from planetary civilizations to spacefaring cultures. The galaxy's most feared predators were revealing themselves to be its oldest protectors, and humanity had been the key to unlocking this truth. As Tom stood beside the Alpha, their energy patterns synchronized in a display of mutual understanding, the future of galactic civilization began to change forever. The days following the revelation transformed the Galactic Council Station into a hub of unprecedented activity. Scientists, diplomats, and researchers from every species gathered to learn from the Ravagers, while Tom and Dr. Bell worked tirelessly to facilitate communication between all parties. In the main research bay, the Alpha Ravager demonstrated how their crystalline bodies could detect and contain dark energy. Its body glowed with a soft blue light as it released controlled pulses that formed complex three-dimensional models in the air. The crystals don't just store information, Tom explained to an assembled group of scientists. They're tools for manipulating the fabric of space itself. The Ravagers evolved these abilities over millions of years of protecting the galaxy. One of the juvenile Ravagers had taken a particular interest in the proceedings, often positioning itself near the human scientists. It would release small energy patterns that mimicked their scanning equipment, learning and adapting to their methods of study. "Look at this," Dr. Bell called out, examining new data on her screens. The juvenile is actually modifying its crystal structure to better communicate with our instruments. They're not just teaching us, they're learning from us too. The council chamber had been temporarily converted into a joint operations center, where Marcus coordinated with representatives from various worlds to begin the massive task of relocating colonies away from the dangerous energy seal points. "The Ravagers will help us identify safe zones for settlement," Marcus announced to the gathered delegates. "In return, we'll assist them in maintaining the ancient seals. This is the beginning of a partnership that will benefit all species." Outside the station, the rest of the Ravager pack patrolled in elegant formations, their crystals glowing with new patterns they had learned from their interactions with the station's inhabitants. Other Ravager packs had begun arriving, drawn by the Alpha's call, each bringing their own ancient knowledge to share. Tom stood at a viewing window, watching the display. Each pack has its own history, its own specific knowledge about the regions they protect. Together, they hold the key to understanding the galaxy's deepest mysteries. Clear Voice, who had once doubted Tom's approach, floated nearby. "How did you know? How did you see past their fearsome appearance to recognize their true nature?" "On Earth, we learned that every creature, no matter how dangerous it seems, has a purpose in its ecosystem," Tom replied. "The Ravagers aren't just apex predators, they're apex protectors. They evolved to defend not just themselves, but all life in the galaxy." In the station's newly established communication center, teams worked around the clock to create a standardized system for translating Ravager energy patterns into data all species could understand. The juvenile Ravager often assisted, practicing new patterns and helping to refine the translation protocols. Dr. Bell's latest report to the Council highlighted an unexpected discovery: the Ravager's crystal structures don't just store historical data, they contain star maps predicting future dark energy eruptions. "They've been preparing us for threats we didn't even know existed." The Alpha approached Tom during a quiet moment, its crystals shifting to create a pattern they now both understood as a gesture of respect. Through their shared energy language, it conveyed a message that Tom translated for the others. "They want us to establish a permanent joint training facility. A place where young Ravagers and representatives from all species can learn from each other. They believe that combining their ancient wisdom with our diverse perspectives and technologies is the key to better protecting the galaxy. The message sent waves of excitement through the station. This wasn't just about avoiding conflict or sharing territory, it was about creating a new future where the galaxy's oldest guardians and its younger civilizations could work together as equals. As Tom watched the Alpha teaching a group of fascinated xenobiologists about crystal energy manipulation, he couldn't help but smile. Sometimes the most fearsome predators turned out to be the greatest teachers, you just had to be brave enough to learn their language. 1 year later, the Galactic Council gathered for a historic ceremony. The massive chamber, once a place of fear when discussing the Ravagers, now sparkled with crystalline formations that had been carefully grown along its walls, a symbolic fusion of Council architecture and Ravager biological art. Tom stood on the central platform, the Alpha Ravager beside him, both of them facing the assembled delegates. Above them, the space outside the station's dome was filled with dozens of Ravager packs, their crystals creating a spectacular light show that rivaled the most beautiful nebulae. 1 year ago, Marcus began, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber, we faced what we thought was an unstoppable threat. Today, we celebrate the greatest diplomatic achievement in galactic history. The juvenile Ravager that had shown such curiosity during the first contact now moved through the chamber with confidence, its crystal patterns more complex and refined. It had become something of a mascot for the new Galactic Ravager Academy, where representatives from all species learned to communicate with and understand the ancient guardians. Dr. Bell stepped forward, presenting the latest findings from the Academy. We've already identified and secured 312 dark energy seal points. The Ravagers have taught us how to detect early warnings of seal degradation, and our combined technologies have improved the containment systems by 40%. The Alpha's crystals shifted, creating a cascade of light that transformed into a detailed projection of the galaxy. Points of light marked the locations of new joint outposts, stations where Ravagers and other species work together to monitor and maintain the seals. But perhaps most importantly, Tom added, we've learned that the galaxy's greatest strength lies not in our technologies or our weapons, but in our ability to understand each other. The Ravagers have protected this galaxy for millions of years. Now, they no longer have to do it alone. The juvenile demonstrated this point by synchronizing its energy patterns with the station's power grid, showing how Ravager abilities could work in harmony with modern technology. What once seemed like aggressive energy blasts were now recognized as sophisticated tools for maintaining the fabric of spacetime itself. Clear Voice, now the head of the new Interspecies Communication Department, activated a holographic display showing the progress of the translation project. We've documented over 10,000 unique Ravager energy patterns, each containing centuries of accumulated knowledge. We've only begun to scratch the surface of their wisdom. The Alpha turned to Tom, initiating their now familiar energy exchange. Through their shared language of light and power, it expressed what Tom translated for the assembly: the time of solitude is over. The Guardians and the Guided become one. The future of the galaxy belongs to all of us, together. From the highest tier of the chamber, a voice called out, and what of the human who made this all possible? What does Earth say about their representative who changed the course of galactic history? Tom smiled, looking up at the spectacular display of lights outside the station. Earth has always known that understanding is better than fear, that cooperation is stronger than conflict. We learned these lessons from our own predators, our own history of turning enemies into allies. The Ravagers simply proved that these principles hold true even on a galactic scale. The chamber erupted in applause as the Alpha raised its crystalline body, creating a light pattern that was immediately recognized by all present, the newly adopted symbol of unity between the Ravagers and the Galactic Council. The juvenile joined in, adding its own harmonious patterns, followed by every Ravager pack outside the station. As the lights danced across space, telling stories of past guardianship and future cooperation, Tom realized that this was more than just a diplomatic success or a scientific breakthrough. It was proof that in the vast darkness of space, understanding could light the way forward. The apex predators had become the galaxy's greatest teachers, and humanity's gift for connection had helped forge a path to a brighter future for all species.